Drop a like and do share. Leave your comments and do not forget to subscribe for more videos.
Hello students, my name is Niyati Said and thanks for watching Edupedia Word videos. My topic for the presentation is 7th section of the chapter Cell, the Basic Unit of Life. In this section of the video, we will discuss about the cell membrane in detail. I have already given you the gist about the cell membrane, so you can refer to that presentation for better understanding. Okay, so let's proceed towards our topic, that is cell membrane students. The detailed structure of the membrane was studied only after the advent of electron microscope in 1950. Okay. Meanwhile, chemical studies on the cell membrane, especially human RBC, it showed that cell membrane composed of lipid bilayer, protein and carbohydrate. So where is lipid bilayer? This is a zoom view of plasma membrane, that is cell membrane. Plasma membrane and cell membrane, they both are same, so don't get confused. Okay, so as I told you that the detailed structure of the membrane was studied only after the advent of electron microscope in 1950 year. Okay, so what we got to know, that plasma membrane consists of lipid bilayer. See, this is lipid bilayer. Bilayer means two layers, so this is one layer and this is second layer. Okay, so lipid bilayer. This is lipid molecule, this outer polar head and inner tail, that is hydrophobic in nature. Okay, so this was lipid. Now where is protein? See, this is one protein and this is another protein. This is integral protein which is embedded in the plasma membrane, that is integral protein, and one is superficial or peripheral protein which lies on the outer part of the cell membrane. Okay, and where is carbohydrate? Carbohydrate is attached here to the protein molecule. So this sugar is carbohydrate molecule. So chemical studies on human RBCs, they show that cell membrane composed of lipid bilayer, protein and carbohydrates. So these three things, they make up cell membrane. Okay, now what is lipid? In plasma membrane, mainly phosphoglyceride. See, this is phosphoglyceride. Okay, this is lipid. Okay, it has outer head. This circular head is the outer part of the phosphoglyceride, that is lipid, and the inner tail. See, this is the tail. It is hydrophobic in nature. That means it repels water. Whereas this outer head, it is hydro loving. That means water loving. Okay, that is hydrophilic in nature. So the non-polar tail of the saturated hydrocarbon is protected from the aqueous environment of the cytoplasm. See, this white area is cytoplasm. Okay, so this tail, as we know that it is hydrophobic in nature, that means it repels water. So this non-polar tail of the saturated hydrocarbon, it is protected from aqueous environment of cytoplasm outside. Okay, that's why it is oriented inward. Now, what are the characteristics of plasma membrane, students? Plasma membrane, it is made up of two layers of phospholipid. Okay, as I told you that it is composed of lipid bilayer, proteins and carbohydrate. So it consists of two layers of phospholipid. See, this is one layer of phospholipid and this is second layer of phospholipid, which is represented by blue color. Okay, this is the head which is oriented outward and this is the tail which is represented by red color. It is oriented inward. Okay, because it is hydrophobic in nature. So the plasma membrane, it has many proteins which are embedded in it. Okay, such as integral protein. See, this is the protein which is embedded inside the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane, it regulates the entry and the exit of the cell, and plasma membrane is semi-permeable in nature. That means it allows selective things to go in or go out. Okay, so plasma membrane, it regulates the entry and the exit of the cell. Many molecules cross the cell membrane by diffusion and osmosis. Please note that diffusion and osmosis, they are the two transports through which molecules cross the plasma membrane. Okay, the fundamental structure of the membrane is phospholipid bilayer. This is the fundamental structure, and it forms a stable barrier between two aqueous compartments. Okay, one aqueous environment is inside of the plasma membrane and one aqueous environment is outside the plasma membrane. Okay, so these are the two aqueous environment where plasma membrane it forms a barrier between two aqueous compartments. Okay, so the protein present in the plasma membrane acts as pump, channel, receptors, enzymes or structural components, students. Okay, so protein such as integral protein or be it peripheral protein, they act as pump or channel, or they could act as receptors also. They could act as enzymes or structural components also. So these are the 6 functions which are performed by proteins which are present in the plasma membrane. Okay. Another component is protein. I have already taught you about the lipid. Now another component is protein. So the main component of plasma membrane include protein like glycoproteins, okay, which are used for cell recognition and they act as receptors and antigens. Okay, proteins like glycolipids, they are attached to phospholipids along with the sugar chain. See, this is glycolipid. They are attached to the phospholipids. Okay, see, this is phospholipid which is represented by this color. Okay, and this is glycolipid which are attached to the phospholipid along with the sugar chain. Okay, so glycolipid, glyco means carbohydrate and lipid is lipid. So lipid which is attached to the carbohydrate molecule is known as glycolipid. Lipid with short chain of carbohydrate, they are attached on the extracellular side of the membrane. See, this is the extracellular side of the chain and this is the interior side of the plasma membrane where cytoplasm is present, and the outside the plasma membrane, this is extracellular fluid. Okay, so phospholipid bilayer which are made up of phosphates and lipids, they create a partially permeable membrane which allows only certain substances to diffuse through the membrane. Okay, so this is what? This is phospholipid bilayer which is made up of phosphates and lipids. Okay, mainly phospholipid or phosphoglycerides. They create a partially permeable membrane. Okay, as I told you that they act as semi-permeable membrane which allows only certain substances to diffuse through the membrane. Okay, then comes cholesterol. It maintains the fluidity of cell surface membrane. So these were the components of plasma membrane. Okay, first we studied about the lipid bilayer, second we studied about the protein, and third we studied about the cholesterol. Okay, now what are the cell membrane lipids? So first lipid is phospholipid. It is a major component of cell membrane, students. Okay, and phospholipid, they form a lipid bilayer. That means it forms 2 layers of the lipid in which their hydrophilic outer head is oriented outside. I have already shown you in the diagram. And the tail, which is hydrophobic in nature, spontaneously it arrange itself away from the cytosol or extracellular fluid. That's why it is oriented inside. The lipid bilayer, it is semi-permeable in nature. That means it allows only certain molecules to diffuse across the membrane, students. Then comes cholesterol. It is another lipid component of animal cell membrane. Okay, it is present only in the animal cell membrane and not in the plant cell membrane. Cholesterol molecules, they are selectively dispersed between membrane phospholipids. This helps to keep cell membrane from becoming stiff by preventing phospholipid from being too closely packed together. So cholesterol, it is not found in the membrane of plant cell. Please note that. Okay, it is a unique characteristic of animal cell. It is present only in the cell membrane of animals. Okay, then comes glycolipid. They are located on the cell membrane surface and they have carbohydrate sugar chain attached to them. See what it is? Glyco means carbohydrate and lipid is lipid. So when carbohydrate is attached to the lipid, or you can say when sugar molecule is attached to the lipid, then that is called as glycolipid. Glyco is nothing. It is carbohydrate or sugar molecule. So don't get confused between two. Okay, so they help the cell to recognize other cell of the body. This is the significance of glycolipid when present in the cell membrane. Okay, so these were the 3 lipids which are present in the cell membrane. Okay, now cell membrane receptor proteins. What are they? Cell membrane receptor protein, they help in communication of a cell with their external environment with the help of hormone, neurotransmitters and other signaling molecules. Okay, so this is the extracellular fluid and this is the cytoplasm, and these are the proteins which are embedded in the plasma membrane. Okay, and it help in the communication of a cell with their external environment with the help of hormone, neurotransmitters and other signaling molecules. Now, what is transport protein? First, we studied about the cell membrane receptor protein. First protein was that. Second protein is transport protein. It helps in transporting molecules across cell membrane through facilitated diffusion. See, this is your transport protein. That means it has channel which allows molecules to pass across cell membrane through facilitated diffusion. For example, globular protein. And third is glycoprotein. It helps in cell-to-cell communication and molecule transport across the membrane. Okay, so these were the three proteins which are present in the plasma membrane, students. Okay, so far we have studied about the lipids which are present in the cell membrane and protein which are present in the cell membrane. Let's study what are the significance of different proteins present in the cell membrane. So the cell membrane, it contains two types of associated proteins, students. First is peripheral membrane protein. They are exterior to and they are connected to the membrane by interaction with other proteins. That means they are present on, or you can say that it lies on the outer surface of the plasma membrane. Second is integral membrane protein. They are inserted or they are embedded in the cell membrane and most pass through the membrane. Okay, so the portion of these transmembrane protein, they are exposed on both sides of the membrane. Students, integral membrane proteins are also called as transmembrane proteins, so don't get confused between these two terms. Okay, so the portion of these transmembrane protein, they are exposed on both sides of the membrane. Cell membrane protein, they have number of different functions. Okay, now comes structural protein. Structural protein, as the name implies, that it gives support to the cell and shape. Cell membrane receptor protein, they help cell communicate with their external environment through the use of hormones, neurotransmitter and other signaling molecules. Okay, then comes transport protein. Transport protein such as globular protein, and as the name implies that it transports molecule across the cell membrane through facilitated diffusion. Then comes glycoprotein. They have carbohydrate chain which is attached to them. Glyco means carbohydrate and protein is protein. So when carbohydrate is attached to the protein, then it is called as glycoprotein. So it has a carbohydrate chain which is attached to them. They are embedded in the cell membrane and they help in cell-to-cell communication and molecule transport across the membrane. Okay, so these are the proteins which are present in the cell membrane. Students, biochemical investigation, it clearly revealed that cell membrane also possess protein and carbohydrate. The ratio of the protein and the lipid varies considerably in different cell types. In human beings, the membrane of erythrocyte, that is RBC, okay, red blood cell, it has 52% protein and 40% of lipid. Now, based on the ease of extraction, membrane proteins are of two types. First is integral protein and second is peripheral protein. So these two are integral protein and this is peripheral protein. Integral protein, they partially or totally buried in the membrane. As you can see, this is totally buried in the membrane. So integral protein could be partially or totally buried in the cell membrane, students. Okay. Now comes peripheral protein. See, this is the peripheral protein which lies on the surface of the membrane. See, this is the membrane, okay, which is represented by the outer round heads which are hydrophilic in nature. These are the lipid molecules and that make up the cell membrane. So this is the peripheral protein which lies on the surface of the lipid molecule or lipid bilayer. Okay, I hope it is clear to all of you now. Now we will study about the fluid mosaic model, students. Okay, it is an important model of the structure of the cell membrane, which was proposed by Singer and Nicholson. So this fluid mosaic model, it is an improved model of the structure of cell membrane, which was proposed by Singer and Nicholson in year 1972, and it was widely accepted as fluid mosaic model. According to this model, quasi-fluid nature of lipid, okay, see these are lipid, that red ones are the lipid. So these are the lipid molecules. So the quasi-fluid nature of these lipid molecule, it enables lateral movement of protein within the overall bilayer. See, this is protein, okay, so it laterally moves in the cell membrane, okay. So the quasi-fluid nature of lipid, it enables the lateral movement of protein within the overall bilayer, okay. So this ability to move within the membrane is measured as its fluidity, okay. What are the functions of cell membrane, students? First, transport of the molecules. Of course, it has transport proteins. See, these are the transport protein which are represented by a green color. So they allow small molecules to pass across the cell membrane. Okay, so this is the main function of cell membrane, that it helps in the transport of the molecule, and membrane is selectively permeable to some molecules present on either side of the plasma membrane. Now, due to the fluid nature, plasma membrane can help in cell growth, or it helps in the formation of intercellular junction, or it helps in the cell division, secretion and endocytosis. Okay, let's see function of plasma membrane in detail. First, it separates the content of the cell from its outside environment, and it regulates what enters and exits the cell. Okay, plasma membrane, it plays a vital role in protecting the integrity of the interior of the cell, and it allows only selected substances into the cell, and thus it keeps other substances out. Okay, it also serves as a base of attachment for the cytoskeleton in some organisms and cell walls in other. Okay, that means plasma membrane, it acts as a base of attachment for the cytoskeleton such as microtubule, microfilaments and intermediate filaments in some organisms and cell wall in others. Okay, so thus the cell membrane, it supports the cell, it maintains the integrity of the cell, or it helps in maintaining the shape of the cell. Okay, the cell membrane, it is primarily composed of proteins and lipids. While lipid, they help to give membrane their flexibility, and proteins, they monitor and maintain cell chemical climate, and they assist in transfer of the molecule across the membrane. The lipid bilayer, it is semi-permeable in nature, which allows only selected molecules to diffuse across the membrane. That's why it is selectively permeable also, you can say. Semi-permeable or selectively permeable, they both are same. That means they allow only certain selected molecules to diffuse across the membrane. Okay. Now let's see prokaryotic and eukaryotic plasma membrane distinction, how they differ from each other. First, we will study about the prokaryotic plasma membrane. They are composed of phospholipid bilayer with embedded molecules. Okay. On the contrary to this, eukaryotic plasma membrane is phospholipid bilayer, contains protein and carbohydrate attached to the protein and sterols. So this is the distinction between prokaryotic and eukaryotic plasma membrane. Now another distinction is made on the basis of the fatty acid present in the phospholipid, which is present in the prokaryotic plasma membrane. So in the middle of the bilayer, fatty acids of the phospholipid are found, which we call it as hydrophobic region. Okay, it is a fluid phospholipid bilayer which is embedded with protein and glycoprotein. Prokaryotic cells, they have multiple plasma membranes. Okay, and phospholipid bilayer in eukaryotic cell, it is arranged in such a manner that they form the center of the membrane. That means it has only one plasma membrane, unlike prokaryotic plasma membrane, students. Okay. In prokaryotic organisms, plasma membrane, they are responsible for controlling entry and the exit of the cell. In eukaryotic plasma membrane, it contains sterol, which help the membrane become less permeable, and they help to stabilize the membrane, and it adds rigidity to the membrane. So sterol is the unique feature which is present in the eukaryotic plasma membrane and not in the prokaryotes. Okay, as I told you that cholesterol, it is a unique characteristic which is present in eukaryotes and not in the prokaryotes, and it helps sterol. I'm talking about the sterol. It makes the membrane less permeable. That means it makes the membrane selectively permeable or semi-permeable. That helps to stabilize the membrane and it adds the rigidity to the membrane. So these were the distinction between prokaryotic and eukaryotic plasma membrane. Okay, and this was all about cell membrane. In my next section of the presentation, I'll be teaching you about the cell wall. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Wikipedia Word videos. Thank you.